My name is Elijah. I'm a freshman here, and I'm from Philly.
Oh, man.
I'm Jess. I'm a sophomore, and I'm also from outside of Philly.
What is it that opens that doorway that someone could say, yeah, okay, I can see that as a reasonable option for my life, that I'm going to go carjack people?
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, they did have a decision. They could have chosen not to hijack the car, but it's more of a subconscious, it's like a subconscious thought of, oh, in your head it's telling you, you should do this. Other people have done it. They've made money. Why wouldn't you do it?
So the pressure.
The pressure, it's like an internal pressure influence from external factors.
So, okay, dude, nice.
They might not necessarily know any better.
Or they actually, or might not know any worse for them.
Right.
Like, it's awesome, right? If you're watching the video, if you're one of these know-it-all, snarky 50-year-olds, that was amazing for an 18-year-old, all right? Can you have Jessica go out in the hallway? Take a chair out there. You can take your phone, but don't listen to class. You can study your notes. So Elijah's now going to take what I just said, and he's going to explain something. Remember these guys, the carjackers? So you're talking to your friends. Remember the folks in the streets of Kensington? Okay? Now you got to take what I just talked about, and you got to explain. Start with the carjackers. You want to discuss how a sociologist would explain their behavior.
Regardless if like society sees them and it's like, oh, that's your choice, you did that. I guess a sociologist would say they were influenced by external factors, where they grew up or the types of people they hang out with. And growing up and seeing things like that, or having people in their immediate circle that have done things like that or similar and have either prevailed or failed, subconsciously they're influenced to do it regardless if they made that decision or not. And then, I mean, obviously they're still held responsible, but I guess like a sociologist wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, it's 100% their fault because they saw it, they've experienced it, it might have happened to them, and just seeing them do something that they're surrounded by isn't their choice. Yeah.
Okay. Now, dude, wait, you're a freshman?
Yeah.
You mean you just started up here a few weeks ago?
A few weeks ago, yeah.
Dude, that's amazing. Okay, first off, if you're watching the video, if you're one of these know-it-all, snarky 50-year-olds, that was amazing for an 18-year-old, all right? So don't be a all right? Now do it again, or keep going, and be more subtle in it. Like, because how you ended that was kind of, it's not the choice. Like, so go back to that. Go back to, like, where does choice come in? Because you're from Philly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where in Philly?
I grew up in South, but I currently reside in West.
Okay. So, put yourself in the shoes of these kids, right?
Okay.
As best you can.
Yeah. I mean, I could understand, like, if they grew up, okay, like, for example, North Philly, I know that it's a pretty bad neighborhood. I used to go to school there. I went to Central. So if a person who grew up there sees that a lot and, like, they know a lot of people who have done it, more often than not, I feel like they would be influenced to do it regardless if it's their choice or not.
Or they're more likely to be influenced to do it than, let's say, I don't know, this dude right here, right? Than him. Okay? What help people to understand, what is that?
What is influence?
Yeah, what do you see? What do you understand that other people don't know? Because other people are going to look at these kids and they're going to be like, what's the problem? Just don't do that stuff. Like, what is it that opens that doorway that someone could say, yeah, okay, I could see that as a reasonable option for my life, that I'm going to go carjack people?
I think you got to look at it like on a more, like if you take a positive example. For example, let's say a kid was born into a family where everyone in the family grew up, went through high school, and made it at least to college.
Yeah, went to Penn State.
Went to Penn State, sure. Let's say they grew up in that family, so therefore they also went through high school, grew up, and went to Penn State. Now,
Or aspired to go to Penn State. Yep.
Aspired to go to
Okay,
Penn State,
yep.
whether or not they made it.
And then they ended up going to Ohio State.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? Regardless if they had a lot of choices of colleges, of high schools, whether or not to drop out or not. Now, you look at that, you look at the kid, you're like, oh, that's normal. You know, he had a family who went there. Of course he would want to go there. Now, look at it in the side of a carjacker. Let's say that person grew up in a community full of other carjackers.
Or people who...
Or people who aspired to carjack.
Or just were up to nefarious activities.
Nefarious activities,
Yep.
yeah, that.
And didn't see a long-term future.
Right. They
Yep.
saw fast money.
Okay.
That was acquired from doing nefarious activities. If they grew up seeing that, then they would be more likely to be influenced by those people and conduct the same activities, which are typically nefarious.
So just like I'm influenced by other men wearing pants and shirts and not skirts
And dresses.
and dresses. So like, okay. But people don't understand that, because what people think, and this is what you have to respond to, people think, but these kids could make a different decisions. Other kids make a different decision, so why can't they make the same decision? You went to school in North Philly, but you didn't fall into that crowd of people.
Yeah.
This is in D.C., by the way, but nonetheless.
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, they did have a decision. They could have chosen not to hijack the car, but it's more of a subconscious, it's like a subconscious thought of, oh, in your head it's telling you, you should do this. Other people have done it. They've made money. Why wouldn't you do it?
So the pressure.
The pressure, it's like an internal pressure influence from external factors.
So, okay, dude, nice. Okay. It's like the white women in the sororities that have the same uniform on.
Yeah.
Like nobody told them that they had to do that, but they're doing it. They're dressing in the same way.
Right.
But somebody would say, yeah, but they're not breaking the law, but these kids are breaking the law.
Right.
To which you, this aspiring sociologist, would say what?
It's the same thing. It's
Dude.
influence.
It's the same thing. It's the influence thing. We're all being influenced by these things. Look, the sociologist, I don't want people to commit crimes, right? Like I don't want people to break the law. I don't want people to carjack. I certainly don't want to get my car carjacked, right? But what I want to do as a sociologist is understand what are the factors and forces that lead these kids to lead a certain number of kids, it is year after year after year, to make a similar kind of decision. Like what's going on in the environment? Like what's happening that the kids are making this decision? And the sociologist says, if I don't understand, this is important, if I don't understand what's leading them to make that kind of decision, if I don't understand that, then I can't stop it. If I just keep saying like, hey, other kids did it, why don't you do it? Just stop. It's like, I'm missing it. I'm not understanding what's driving them to make a decision like that. In which case, like, what good is that? That's why we sound like liberals. We sound like we're saying they're not responsible. You know what we're saying? Yeah, there's a way in which if we don't stop seeing them as fully responsible, then we'll never understand what's going on. But as individuals, they're responsible. You know what I mean? We're not going to be like, oh, you're not responsible, so you don't have to go to jail now. Like, no. Understand. It's just like I want to understand why the white sorority women are wearing their uniforms. I want to understand why kids that you went to high school with, like when you went to Central, right? Why a larger number of those kids are more likely to end up here than doing this kind of stuff than something else.
You said that's Kensington?
Yeah, that's Kensington.
I've been there a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah?
I've seen that.
It's crazy, right?
Since
So can you explain why they are and how they are and are not responsible to the home viewing audience?
It's kind of the same thing as the other ones, how it's like an influence, but like obviously you still have free choice. It's just like whether or not you were pushed to do it by your own subconscious. The steps that they took to get there, they still made, so therefore they're still responsible. And what happens to them after they do it, it's still like it falls on them. So it falls on the person, and that's like the definition of responsibility. So,
And yet, how are they not responsible? Like everyone in this classroom has shoes on.
Right.
No, you're not. It's like you're not even responsible for wearing shoes. You just wear shoes. And if you don't understand this, you don't understand sociology.
Right. So I guess that on the other hand, they wouldn't be held responsible because of the influence of seeing like so many other people doing it and like getting hooked one time, and not being able to fall out of that hole that they've like created for themselves by doing the drugs that they did.
And the hole that got created in the in something in their lives, right? Maybe like things in their families or things in their community or things with their friends or like any number of things, you know what I mean? There are also things that are happening around us all the time. And if we're not careful, then we end up in a deep struggle. Dude, all right. I'd say that was pretty good. Would you say? Dude, he gets a thumbs up from you, bro? Dude. All right, man. See, remember this photo?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to explain that photo.
They could have like been told by someone like with more authority. I mean, I'm not saying they're like in a gang or anything, but like if they were like the leader or something, could have like told them to do that.
Okay.
So like they didn't really have a choice necessarily, even though they think that they do.
Okay. Or we think that they do.
Right.
Not that they didn't have a choice. Say that differently, because they always have a choice. But say it differently about their choices. This is listen to this, by the way. This is really, really, really important.
People around them could have also been partaking in like activities like this, so they just wanted to like fit in with the people around them, and like they might think that it's like cool to like take a car, so
Totally.
they did that.
Okay. And just like the sorority women think it's cool to dress the way they're dressing and do what they're doing. By the way, sorority women, I'm just using you as don't take it personally. It's all good, right? We good? We're products of our sociological reality. So these kids are going to be products of their sociological reality. Okay? So therefore, just like I'm not wearing a dress, like they're just doing what they see around themselves. But somebody would say, but they could choose otherwise. And what would you say? But they don't have to do that. They could live very differently. What would you say?
I mean, this is how like they grew up. They might not necessarily know any better.
Or they actually, or might not know any worse. For them,
Right.
like it's awesome, right? I mean, look, yeah, exactly. So this is the hard thing, right? This is what sociology, this is where we go, this is where we go off the cliff with people. We say, look, people are products of their sociological environment. They can always act other than the way they've been largely kind of like, not programmed, but like socialized to act. And we always imagine that we would act differently, right? But I wouldn't do that. And yet, we're all doing things that other people can't imagine that we would ever do. We're all doing that. And so, like, how are they different from us?
I mean, they are, but they aren't. I mean, the majority of people aren't going to go carjack someone's car.
Yeah.
But they're also just humans, and it could have just been a mistake.
Or you got a lot of parents of people in this room, because, a lot of you are in the upper middle class. A lot of your parents commit all sorts of white-collar crime. But, they don't come home and tell you about it. They don't even know they're committing white-collar crime. They're sowing deep up to their necks in criminal activity at some fundamental level, and they don't even know it, and they wouldn't even talk about it. And the reason they do it is because in their industry, and whatever it is they're doing, everybody does that. And so it's just like, well, that's just what it is. But they don't get caught. These kids get caught, and they do the perp walk, which that's not what that is, but it shows up. But your parents or your uncle or your grandparents or you, at some point, you'll never get caught. You'll just commit this criminal activity. And the rest of us won't even define it as criminal activity, which means you really win, because it's criminal, but we don't define it that way. So it's like, oh, awesome. So it's very similar in that sense. What about responsibility? Are they responsible? Or to what degree are they responsible?
I mean, I think it depends on the situation, but for the most part, they are responsible. They took the initiative to take the car, so they have that type of responsibility.
To what degree are they not? Remember, here, was it an option for you to not go to college?
No.
Are you responsible for the fact that you could have said no to going to college, and you didn't? You could have said no.
Right.
I mean, really, but you didn't say no because not going wasn't an option. So are you responsible, therefore?
I guess not.
In a way, you're not even responsible. You're just like, I was gonna go down this path. You, Jessica, we're gonna walk down this path of going to college. Didn't matter, and nothing else mattered. All the while, you're thinking, I'm making a decision about going to college. And then you get to this sociology class with the sociology knucklehead saying like, yay, you didn't even make that decision. That decision got made for you. So how are you any different than these kids?
I mean, I didn't do anything illegal.
Okay.
But besides that, I mean, I guess there's not really that big of a difference. They could have seen it as they didn't have like the responsibility, like they might have had to take the car or something like that.
Okay.
Where they didn't have any other option.
Yeah. And you could have been responsible to say, you know what, Mom and Dad or whoever it is, I'm not going to college. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go bake croissants in Paris. Croissants. First, you have to say it like that. And once you say it like that, then you're allowed to bake them. But this is sociology, right? This is where we're trying to hold responsibility. We're trying to hold this stuff in a space whereby we say, like, okay, it's true, it's all happening, and yet it's not. It's true, these kids are responsible for sure, like they're gonna go to jail because that's the nature of it. And I personally, I'm like, yeah, I don't want, until someone gets in your head to stop carjacking, I'd like you to be in jail or somewhere where they can convince you to stop doing that shit, because I don't want you carjacking anybody else. But at the same time, it's like, if we don't understand the sociological forces in play, then we can't ever have important, valuable conversations about this stuff.